Good morning, everyone. My name is Jorge Cuellar, and I'm an assistant professor of Latin American, Latino, and Caribbean Studies at Dartmouth College. And I'm speaking to you today as part of an international delegation observing the process and the trial of the five Santa Marta and ADES environmentalists. This international delegation was convened by International Allies Against Mining in El Salvador, where we speak this following statement. We are international observers from King's College, Western University in Canada, Dartmouth College, and UCLA Law School in the United States, and the Autonomous University of Mexico City in Mexico. At the conclusion of the third day of the trial, we offer the following observations. One, we witnessed a trial that formally appears to have followed most international standards of due process. However, the proceedings transgressed those standards on numerous occasions. We agree with the defense that sufficient proof was not presented to convict the five defendants. Based on what was presented in the courtroom, we believe that the only just resolution is the acquittal of all five defendants. Failure to acquit signals the lack of presumption of innocence and therefore the lack of an independent judiciary in El Salvador.
Secondly, for example, the Attorney General's communications team violated the gag order imposed by the judges, exposing the identities of witnesses and observers, as well as depicting the defendants in ways that assumed their guilt across social media. We fear that this violation of the gag order without a court reprimand represents a lack of procedural impartiality. Additionally, while journalists were allowed to access court grounds on the final day of the trial, we believe that this was a last-minute measure to rectify the earlier breach of the gag order by the Attorney General. We lament that the measure was not announced widely to members of the wider press who were respecting the gag order. Throughout the proceedings, the independent press was not allowed to take photos or videos inside the courtroom.
Additionally, we observe an overly aggressive strategy by the lawyers representing the Attorney General that included littering and using their bodies to put pressure on witnesses. For this behavior, they were repeatedly cautioned and corrected by the tribunal. Despite warnings and requests by the judge, the Attorney General lawyers ignored directions, interrupt procedures, and fail to respect courtroom decorum.
At least one defendant was mistreated by the police, who deprived him of sleep and food. Rather than transferring him directly to his residence following the day's proceedings, he was held at a police substation and verbally abused, only to arrive home hours later underfed and exhausted. The following morning, police arrived at his home unexpectedly early and denied him a proper breakfast. We witnessed the visible fatigue and inability to focus on the proceedings from all of the accused. Mistreatment remains a concern as the defendants are of advanced age with a variety of pre-existing conditions such as diabetes and hypertension. The well-being of the accused must be prioritized to ensure a fair trial. Outside of the courtroom, we witnessed overwhelming support for the defendants from international human rights organizations, the Santa Marta community, Salvadoran civil society, and social movement organizations. Many have concluded that the case is an attempt by the Salvadoran government to intimidate the environmental movement that resulted in the landmark national ban on metallic mining in 2017. For us, the incessant pursuit of a conviction by the Attorney General's lawyers, despite a lack of evidence, cannot be unlinked from these broader politics and concerns against communities resisting the encroachment of extractive projects. Given the mistreatment described against one of the defendants above, we recommend that the rest of the proceedings, particularly the logistics of transportation, are monitored by the Office of the Ombudsman for the Defense of Human Rights in El Salvador to ensure their personal and physical integrity. While we await the closing arguments and the tribunal's decision, and based on our observations, we maintain that justice can only be served by a ruling that affirms the innocence of the accused. The community of Santa Marta, too, aggrieved and impacted by this lengthy ordeal, must be presented with restitution, and steps must be taken to ensure lasting transitional justice.